Nina ji. Thank you so much for joining us today for this podcast and the great work that you have done writing 2 books and researching so much and bringing it to the entire world's attention. And everybody should know about Ayodhya. It is one of the most ancient and oldest city and a place which was the center place for dharma. So you have done a great dharma by doing all this. And if we can start with your journey, how you come to write about, how did you even think about writing and researching such a thing and writing about it? And tell us a little bit about your book and about yourself and everything.
So, good evening and namaste to your followers. And I want to start by talking about my research on Ayodhya. So, these are my books, Amazing Ayodhya in English, and of course, Adbhut Ayodhya in Hindi. So these have come out after approximately 5 years of research, and it took me. The reason it took me so long to research is also because I had to learn Sanskrit, and I wasn't very well versed in Sanskrit, so I had to relearn it. And then it wasn't the simple Sanskrit that a lot of people know by studying in school. So I did not study Sanskrit in school. I was in a convent, and then after that, when I joined a regular school, I had already missed many years of Sanskrit. So I barely had 2 years of Sanskrit, and I did not study a lot of it. So I had to relearn Sanskrit. And a lot of people who say, well, you studied in India, so you must have already known Sanskrit, so why did you have to relearn it? No, I lived in India, but I studied in convents. So therefore, there was no Sanskrit education in those schools. So when I started studying, so in order to research, in order to do all of this, I had to study Valmiki Ramayana. Now, for anybody who is well versed with Sanskrit or Sanskrit literature will know that Valmiki Ramayana is also not easy peasy Sanskrit. It is very refined and a very high quality Sanskrit. So in fact, one of my major problems that happened was that, of course, I could read the translations, but I did not want to depend on the translations, right? What if there is an error in the translation? What if the translation is inaccurate? Therefore, I needed the guidance of certain teachers. And you'd be surprised to know there are very, very few teachers who are adept to explain Valmiki Ramayana Sanskrit to you. Wow. A lot of them do not understand. And this is a problem that I regularly faced. And in fact, I used to go to other places to learn Sanskrit and all, and the Sanskrit teachers could not help me there. So it was a very tough journey. It sounds very easy to people because I've researched things and given it to them in their hands. And so some of them complain, when you only explain what is written in the Valmiki Ramayana. The thing is that we can only talk about the Valmiki Ramayana in Hinduism or in Sanatan Dharma. There is this emphasis on scriptural proof. Yes. So we have many types of proof, right? So there is Pratyaksh Praman. Pratyaksh Praman is, did Neena Rai ever exist? So of course Neena Rai existed because she was on Prakriti Ji's podcast. So we know she existed. Prakriti is about it, right? She was on, let's say, CNN News 18. So she existed. So we have multiple proofs of her existence, correct? So this is the easiest Praman that you can get. The other Praman is Anuman Praman, and another Praman is Shabdik Praman. So Shabdik Praman is what the scriptures say. So we take, let's say, the Vedas as Praman, and we take the Itihas as Praman. And in Itihas, we have the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. So the other Purans are just that, Purans. They are not supposed to be proof. But what the Valmiki Ramayana says is proof. Therefore, my study is on Shabdik Praman, because what they have said is the truth. And therefore, so many years of research. And so I had to study Sanskrit. And then whatever they were saying, so a lot of scholars, including a lot of Indic scholars, and I was very surprised that whatever they could not understand or interpret, they said, oh, this is imagination. They would just cough it off as like imagination. And then a lot of other Indic scholars, they say that, they merge things together and they hold the current Western research of timing of events, and they're more focused on timing of events. There is not enough proof that we know about how long our civilization has existed. Do you know that recently they found an axe, and that axe was 500,000 years old?
So,
Yes.
so many times civilization is just going on and on and on since so long. And yes, that's why even for me also, Kal is never an issue. Timeline is never an issue. It's just existed and here is the proof. And again, whichever kind of Praman. And if I cannot find the Shabd Praman, Apta Praman, or Shastra Praman for anything, then my only way is just to sit in Samadhi for some time and know it directly. So have the darshan in that way.
So it's when you can get into samadhi and know, it's another thing. But then for those who do not know and
Yes.
want the proof, what do you do?
Yeah.
So I have to
Again.
give them Shabdik Praman.
Shabdik Praman.
I have to give them Pratyaksh Praman, and then there is Anuman. Obviously,
Yes.
Anuman is like when obviously if you're eating a mango, is the mango sweet or sour? So you eat, or for that matter, like, so people who do not understand what is Anuman Praman, if you see a mango tree, then what do you suppose the fruit is like? So you have to take
Inference,
inference,
Yeah,
right?
knowledge
So
through
the inference you have to, So I've really made it very simple. So inference. So for that research, I obviously had traveled a lot, and so when I was studying, I said, oh, I know what they're talking about. I know the kind of building they're talking about. I know what they mean by this line. And I said, whatever the Valmiki Ramayana is saying, I have not only seen it in India, but I've also seen it across the world. And so this is one proof that I put in my book. So for example, it says that the Valmiki Ramayana, in Valmiki Ramayana, it says that Ayodhya had a massive moat. And and that the animals couldn't cross, or they couldn't do that. So so I said, where are the moats that I've seen? So the imperial city of China has a moat. And Angkor Wat has a moat. Angkor Wat's moat, I was just reading, also watching an interview. The mud that they have taken out from the moat of Angkor Wat is bigger than the Pyramid of Giza.
Wow.
That's the amount of stuff that has come out from that. That is the amount, the level of digging that they have done in volume. So you can imagine, and Angkor Wat and Ayodhya is supposed to be bigger than Angkor Wat. And the moat of Angkor Wat. So, and why I'm saying this is that this is the ancient way. This is the ancient way of Vastu Shastra. In fact, in my research, I also noticed that one of the most ancient cities, Dholavira, and by the way, whatever I'm talking about, these are with images given in my book as proof. So if any of your audiences are listening, you would know that, the Angkor Wat's pictures, and so this is all the designer details and the moats. And what did they have in the moat? So what did Chanakya say you should have in the moat? So it's given with images in the book.
I will provide the links to your book with the Amazon link and the direct publisher link. I'll provide it in the description. So anybody who's interested, they can buy it from there.
Yeah, so the description that is given in Valmiki Ramayana for Ayodhya, it says that it had a moat, and beyond the moat, to secure Ayodhya, there was a massive jungle of 2 yojans big. So then, if you take a look at Angkor Wat, that is something similar that you see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so can you see the moat and you see the temple complex, and then there's a jungle around it. Obviously, it's overgrown now. At one time, it must have been a really beautiful, flourishing city.
Yeah.
So so when I did my research, I was very intrigued by all these details. So I went and I read up more. And the thing about Valmiki Ramayana is that it's just a little line. It's just an introduction, and Valmiki Ramayana starts with Ayodhya. It starts with the glory of Ayodhya. So this is so when I started reading that, I started researching where all were the moats, what were they growing in the moats, where do we find these things. So from Japan, China, Angkor Wat, everywhere across the world, I saw the parallels, whether it is the Viman structure buildings, whether it is whatever. It was very interesting for me. So I loved every bit of the journey. And of course, there was absolutely more research than what is being put in the book. At the time of my research, the things were growing so big that I was not able to compile it together. And in compilation, you need a structure. So they were getting out of bounds. So certain researches, I have put them on my YouTube as well, and I've given spoken about it. Let's say research in astrology and other things as well.
So where do you get the original manuscript when you are reading Mahabharata or Ramayana? Where do you get that original Sanskrit manuscript?
So what I do is I used to source it from IIT-K site, which uses the southern recession of the Ramayana, and also I referred to the Gita Press Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana. So the reason I did that is because the IIT-K and other descriptions are very succinct. They're very crisp. Doesn't give you an idea or an explanation. So, but when you read the Valmiki Ramayana, the Gita Press one, it gives you an explanation as to how. There'll be one line or, So, for example, a simple thing is in one of the chapters, it says Jati Dasi. And in the description, it says mantra. So somebody raised this question. There is no mantra written in the shlok. So why have you written mantra? So I said Jati Dasi means mantra. Like she was the Dasi of the queen, since birth. So I said that is what it is. So, it's like there are things that are so simple, yet, when a person is new to this, they may have a little bit of a problem understanding. So in my book, you will notice that the Sanskrit shlok is given, the transliteration is given, and then the translation with the meanings and everything is given. And I have elaborated on Ayodhya, not other things, which are there. So
a lot of times these texts are talking about dharma, are talking about different kinds of things, the weather, this, that, and so many other things which people must follow, about the qualities of normal human being, of a Raj Dharma or a normal Samaj Dharma, this Dharma, that Dharma, and it's not possible. Even if you, I always tell my seekers that whenever you are reading any book like Ramayana, Mahabharata, Gita or Upanishad or Darshan Shastra or anything, just decide first of all whether are you going to read it from a social science perspective, from dharma perspective. Do you want to read it from the adhyatma perspective? Do you want to read it just from the itihasa or history perspective? So what is it that you are looking in it? And that is, and some people read these things from the astronomical or Jyotish perspective as well. So there could be many ways to read the same Shastra. And you cannot say, I didn't find this. Well, you were not reading it that way. So that's the thing. So you were reading it more like a, archaeological, astrological perspective and trying to define the boundary and everything. So tell us some interesting things about Ayodhya, if that doesn't compromise the, the zing about your book.
So One of the most interesting things that I really had to look through whether this was correct or incorrect was the importing of horses and hippopotamuses in
Wow.
Ayodhya. So Ayodhya never imported anything. In fact, it said that every single thing was manufactured in Ayodhya by the skilled craftsmen of Ayodhya. And we use the word craftsmen. Today, craftsmen are taken as people who do chota mota haath ka kaam. But
Engineers.
Shilpi, yeah. But Shilpi in the ancient terms are also what we call mechanical engineers,
yes.
electrical engineers. Name any engineering feat or manufacturing feat or even sculpting feat. Everybody was called Shilpi or Vishwakarma. So this is one thing that I saw, one thing that I noticed, and another. So I was speaking about the importing of horses and hippopotamuses. So when I first read, I said, there must be something wrong that I have read. Hippopotamus, and so I read one version, and it said there was no importing. It only said horses from these many places. So I went to the Valmiki Ramayana, the Gita Press one, and it said they imported hippopotamuses. And I said, wait, what is the word for hippopotamuses? And it says Nadija. So, Aj in Sanskrit means born of. And so it says born of rivers. That is born in rivers. So what is born in rivers? So I looked up Nadija. So lotus, hippopotamus, fishes, those like crocodiles and fishes, they're Nadija. And so I obviously assumed nobody is going to import, अगर घोड़ों की बात हो रही है तो उसके context में दरियाई घोड़ा आता है, which is an old term in Hindi. It's in Hindi, it's in Greek, it's in everything that they use it together. Then I said, what is the proof and what is the use? You see, like we assume like this is bizarre. Why would you need it? But when you actually, So this was very, very, so there were two things that were very interesting. One was the research on hippopotamus. And I said, okay, I'm going to see whether in and around. So I had a word with, another very erudite scholar about it. I said, listen, I found this. I don't know what to make of this. And this is Meenakshi Jain. So she says, Neena, do you know that they have found the body of, a hippopotamus in that area? They have excavated. Can you take a look at it? And I said, sure. And, and she was right. I went and I researched, and there was a body of a hippopotamus 15,000 years ago, and it was found in the Narmada River Valley. And so the Narmada River is right beneath. It is, what was Kosal, the capital of Kosal is Ayodhya. So right before the Kosal kingdom is the Mahakosal kingdom, which from where Kaushalya ji comes from. Her name is Kaushalya because she comes from Mahakosal. Kosal. So, and so she gets married to the king of Kosal. So, I said, oh my goodness. That means that there was a trend of importing hippopotamuses in water, keeping them there. That is why all of this has happened. And then I looked at other civilizations, including the Egyptian civilization, and hippopotamus used to be a very important animal there also. How do we know that?
What were they doing with the hippos?
They used to have them in the rivers. Now I'll tell you why it was important in the rivers. So you see the moats are there. The moat is supplying the water to the city. Now, what happens is that when you put water in a channel like this, the water gets rots. So, if you keep water still and the water is not flowing, it starts rotting. And then this is the water that is being supplied for farming and for and for irrigation and all of that. So then I researched why the hippopotamus is important. How does it contribute to the ecology? So the reason what came out was very, very interesting. So the hippopotamus, what it does is it spends all its time in water, but it feeds outside of water. It'll feed on grass and things like that, and it comes and poops in water because it's all the time in water. So that adds to the ecology. So its poop is eaten by the fish. and then it adds to the, whatever enzymes and all of that in water. And so when that water goes and is used for farming, it is enriched water.
Wow.
So there is only a limited amount of silt that will come from the rivers, right? But when you make these kind of, moats, the silt also is very little. The silt will not come because the silt comes in the flowing river, right? So then you need the hippopotamus to have good water.
Wow.
And then that is the feed for fish. And if the fish is there, then the plants will be there, and then the ecology will be bloom.
Wow.
Yes. So that was the most important and interesting thing that I had observed about hippopotamuses. And of course, there is another very interesting reason for the hippopotamus, and that reason is that whenever there is a hippopotamus, it is a natural security. It's a natural security guard. Now, why I'm saying that is because if you have a crocodile, but the crocodile's stomach is full, it will not attack anybody. But if the hippopotamus is in the water, the hippopotamus, being a territorial animal, will kill anybody that comes in the water of the moat. See, hippopotamus predominantly is a vegetarian animal, right? But it will kill every single animal that invades its territory. So in the ancient times, the armies were Chaturangi armies. So what is a Chaturangi army is the question. So that which Chatur in Sanskrit means four. So that which has four limbs. So what are the four limbs of the army? The four limbs of the ancient army used to be infantry. The second was cavalry, then the elephants, and then the chariots. So now, apart from infantry, three limbs are animal based, right? So by the way, today's modern army is also like this. We've just mechanized them. But the cavalry is still there. The elephant has been replaced by tanks, right? So you see, when you are approaching to attack a city, in attack and in defense, so that you have to one of the first tactic of defense is to split the attacking army. So in order to split the attacking army, you have to, gola barud jo karte hain to kill them, it is to split the army. And so today also we have the ditch cum band. So what they'll do is they'll start making ditches. So what happens when you make a ditch, a tank cannot go over that ditch.
Wow.
So it's the same concept. It's just been recycled in a new manner and put it. So in the ancient time, and I've mentioned this in my book, that the defense mechanism that we use in the armies today was encapsulated as the design system of Ayodhya. So the moat acts as a natural splitter of the army. So who gets split? The infantry gets split by the three, right? The three which has animals in it. Now those will not go in the moat to cross. So therefore they are stuck outside. So now you split the army. So you see, the whole of Ayodhya was so intellectually designed and developed. And intellectually designed and developed by whom? In order to secure it, by the Kshatriyas. Now Kshatriyas and Brahmins are the ones who said, okay, this is how we will protect our people, right? So today the trend is to abuse them, right? To abuse the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas. But in ancient times, what was the need of making these things? There was no need of making this. Look at what was happening to Punjab. Punjab as a whole state was constantly being influxed by the Afghanis and the Persians and everybody. They were ruining them.
Yes.
And as soon as they would harvest, those looters would come, take the harvest and go away. So how was that happening? Why weren't they? They were also making the killas and all of that, but it wasn't yielding results. And what we know of Ayodhya is that it was the most secure city in the time that it was built. That is why it was called Ayodhya. So the concept of making Ayodhya was so that nobody can fight it. Therefore, the defense mechanism is inbuilt as the design of the city. So you see the intellectual people underestimate the intelligence of the ancient people if they're naming a city called Ayodhya, which means you cannot fight
Fight
it.
it.
You cannot.
Wow.
It cannot. Yeah, you can
They name
fight
the
it. It
city
cannot.
like that.
Yeah. So you see the design
such a
of that city,
such a deterrent. Just the name is a deterrent.
right? And then how do they prove it that this is it? So they make a moat, they make the jungle, they make this, they make that, and of course, and then their warriors are the best. I mean, I've only written about Ayodhya as a city, but if you read about their warriors also, it's amazing. I mean, there is Shabd Bhedi, Shabd Bhedi. Ban, right? So it's like I can shoot where there is noise I can shoot just by the sound, and when you read Ram Bhagwan and the skill and the training of that they used to give the soldiers, when Ram used to fight in battle, and in the battle when he fought alone with 14,000 Rakshas, they say that his hands were so fast that, you couldn't see that he's shooting. Like, you couldn't see his hands when he was doing something. All you could see is like, he's taken the bow out and he's pointing it like this and someone dies, and then it's like, you can't see his hand. It's so fast. And then someone's, and then, so it's just, when did he take the, arrow out, put it on the bow? How did he aim? To whom did he aim? Nothing. You couldn't see anything. It was just cut, cut. So what does that show us? That shows us that he was so skilled. And how does somebody become so skilled? By continuous training. The word practice makes perfect is something that will sit on Ram Bhagwan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.